I can't tell you.
Okay, now we're live
again.
Oh yeah, again. Also, oh my God, I'm so sorry, guys. We were talking here, and I completely missed the go live button. So we were talking a lot of stuff here, and you guys didn't listen. I'm sorry about that. So now we're starting over, and it's a pleasure for us to have you here with us. And thanks, Martin, for your time. And for all of you that are listening to us, Innovation Exchange is a project that is starting right now with Metanoia.Digital, which is my company. And the idea is to do this cross-cultural exchange on what are the topics that innovation is, the topics and results that innovation is bringing in different countries all over the world, okay? And with me, I have Martin, which is a good friend. We met in one of the projects we ran in Berlin. And for all of you who doesn't know me yet, my name is Harold. I'm from Brazil. I'm the CEO of Metanoia.Digital. And Metanoia.Digital is a company that works with digital transformation and innovation in big corporations. We have run over 80 projects all over the world, across the globe, 4 continents. And in one of these projects, I met Martin. So it's a pleasure to have you all in here. And be aware that the audio of this live broadcast will be available in our podcast. I'll be promoting and sharing the link for all of you guys that are listening. And I hope we have a great conversation with Martin. So please, Martin, thank you very much once again, and welcome to this talk. And please introduce yourself to our audience.
Yeah, thank you, Harold, for having me. It's good to see you again after such a long time.
Yeah,
and it's good. It's always good talking to you. Yeah, for all the others who don't know me yet, Martin Beyer. I'm an innovation consultant at Deloitte Consulting in Germany, and yeah, we help clients create innovation to do innovation. So we have a end-to-end offering. We're starting with this strategy, but we are also helping our clients come up with new solutions, implementing innovation squads, innovation departments, innovation labs, and all those things. So from strategy, we are also doing the implementation and getting our hands dirty. And on the other hand, I'm also a lecturer for startup and entrepreneurship, and for strategic innovation management on the Provider School of International Management and Technology.
Okay, that's nice, Martin. So the first question that I was thinking, I cannot separate strategy from innovation, and I would like you to share a little bit about that, because for me it makes perfect sense that your role has like strategic innovation. But I believe many people don't relate both of these terms,
Yeah, but as you said, it's deeply connected. So when you're a large organization, you definitely need an innovation strategy and an innovation ambition. You have to make clear for your whole organization why you're doing innovation. What is the purpose of doing it, and where you see yourself with the help of innovation in the future. And this also helps to align all the activities you're doing around innovation in your whole organization. So the strategy is a really important thing, but on the other hand, you also need to know how to do the things properly when it's about coming up with new solutions, new business models, or new services.
Okay, nice. And you mentioned that you're a lecturer. I'm also a lecturer. But I wanted to understand a little bit, what are the difference that you see in both publics that you work with? I don't know, the executives on large corporations and the students. What are they looking for around innovation? Because I believe they have different mindsets and expectations.
Yeah, I think it depends a little bit on the level we are talking to in the organizations. So if you're on a team level and on a let's say, normal employee level or on smaller departments, they are really interested in doing innovation, doing things differently, or how innovation methods like design thinking, design sprints, or service design sprints could help them improving their way of work, but also help them to come up with new solutions. So the students and also the employees of the big organizations are interested in doing things differently. But on a higher level, so on C-suite or levels like this, I think the expectation is more that we help them to create the next moonshot or the next big thing, and which is not always a good approach in firsthand, because you can't really plan for the big things. You can try to approach it, but planning is a bit difficult, especially in German corporations, I would say.
Okay, it's interesting that you mentioned German corporation. Why is that? Why is it more difficult? Let's start this cross-cultural understanding.
Yeah, you wanted me to prepare something which is typical German in the field of innovation, and so I thought through it a little bit. So I don't know from when the study is, but it's a really recent study from the World Economic Forum, and it says Germany is the most innovative country in the world.
Wow.
Yeah, I was also surprised. And this is based on patents and investment in research and development and university density over the whole country and things like that. And in some industries, I would say this is really true. So Germany is really strong in manufacturing and automotive industry, and there I think we are also strong in doing innovation in these fields. But where we have a lack is in the service industry. So I haven't seen any really cool innovation or helpful innovation in the past years, and I think there's a field where we have to improve in the future as Germany in a whole.
Yeah, especially because I know we know our work, and we have been studying a lot the service economy and all the impact that the service dominant logic has all over the economy, and how this study and this mindset for corporations are shifting, and the growth of the explosive growth of apps and all this software-based industry is basically service, right? You're not buying a good, you're buying the service that is behind it, and that's really dangerous for Germany in the next few years, actually, right? In an economic
definitely, because we are strong in creating products or maybe technologies, but we are really weak in the commercialization. For instance, in Germany, MP3 was developed, but the commercialization was somewhere else. Or a German guy developed the software, the AI software for Siri, but Apple used it. So we are not really good in making money out of our ideas. let's state it like this. And what I see in the big corporations, they are really good in keeping their core business together and keeping things running and improving products they have or processes they have or services they already have and improving it and making it better. They're really good at this, and this is also a good point. But to be also successful in the future, I think it's also important to come up with really new solutions and to find ways how to create them. And if you're really strong in keeping your core business running and improving all the things you already have, then it's sometimes really difficult to do things really different, to come up with really new solutions, because you can't adjust the approach you have for improving. You can't adjust this approach for really new markets, new customers, new technologies, new fields, because there you don't have enough information. When we're talking about core innovation and your core business, then you know everything. You know how the technology works. You know your customers, you know how they would behave, you know the potential, and you know almost everything. But if you want to come up with really new things, then you don't have this information. Then it's just guessing. And so what we are trying to do with our clients is to show them the difference. So both of those things are important, but you can't do the same, or you can't have the same approach for those two different things.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because we have seen now kind of like a vaporization of all the industries, right? We're going towards software, and there's no more barriers, and you know, Amazon is renting cars in Spain now, so it's kind of like a crazy world, right? If we go back for like the 80s and the 90s studies on strategy, they would say this guy is crazy, you know, but this guy is ruling the world. Because I believe that's the paradigm shift that digital brings. You know, we break barriers. We have software is way easier to produce innovation around software instead of hardware, which is the strong part of Germany economics. And right now we're having this breaking barriers, and this is crazy, man. It's really weird, right? And I heard recently that Daimler is also starting a whole new project on the Mercedes-Benz brand to change towards a more like rental style and peer-to-peer something, you know, and that's going to be really cool to see, you know, how is the industry behaving around this shift. It's pretty interesting. And it's interesting that the point that you mentioned around the knowledge that companies have around their customers, etc. Sometimes I feel, especially when I go to certain customers, that's actually a problem, because it creates like a know-it-all mindset, you know. I know how it works, or it can be done in another way, you know.
Yeah.
Do you face that a lot?
Or I am our customer segment. We don't have to talk to real clients. I am our customer segment. I can tell you how to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course. Because as I mentioned, they're really strong in keeping the core business running and to improving it. But of course, this is also a high risk, because on one hand, it could lead to over engineering. So at some point, your product is way better than the needs or expectations of your clients, and you keep on improving, but nobody needs it. And this opens a big door for smaller new businesses who can come up with the minimum valuable services to solve the special needs of some customer segments. And yeah, on the other hand, it also leads to I think false is a strong word, but it could lead to false new solutions, because you're thinking based on the client or on the customer segment you already know. You're thinking, you know, also the other customer segment, and you're coming up with solutions you think could be good, but which are maybe not the best ones for the customer segment, or where is really no need in this customer segment for the solution you come up. And that's why also some solutions are failing.
Yeah, interesting topic, because you know, many large corporations, they have this mindset that you need to build something huge, you know. And actually the biggest changes we have seen in the last few years around innovation and disruption is actually decoupling the customer's journey, you know. And each little startup is taking a part of it, you know it well, you know. And once they lead in that specific moment of the customer's journey, they have a growth that is impressive, you know. Here in Brazil, we have one of the largest fintechs in the world, that is Nubank. And they did it exactly like that, you know. They didn't thought, hey, let's build a bank. They said, you know, credit cards in Brazil suck. So let's change the credit card experience, and now they're like one of the top 5 banks in Brazil. They're growing amazingly fast, and it's crazy, and how are the banks going to hold that? They can't. They have this huge structure that they need to move a lot, and it's really hard. And I still see that mindset in large corporations. We have a customer, he has all these needs, and we need to take care of the whole journey, and etc. It's interesting that you mentioned that. And let me ask you something, Martin. We have, at least I believe I have this bias, or I don't know, from my studies or anything else, that German's culture is very hierarchical and not very, I don't know, collaborative. It's my bias. But in innovation, we always talk about multidisciplinary teams and collaboration, and the end of hierarchies, and the focus on ideas and not positions. How to deal with this paradox in the culture? I don't know if it's true. You can confirm me or not. And if true, how can you deal with this paradox?
So I wouldn't say that this is really a German culture thing. So I wouldn't say it's the whole culture that is hierarchical. But what I see in really old, let's say old corporations that are existing for a long time now here in Germany, there I see often really hierarchical structures, and which leads to some problems, of course. So what I've seen in a big corporation where we did a innovation maturity assessment, we saw that different departments came up with more or less a similar solution, and they spend a budget for implementing it, and so every department had this almost the same solution, and everyone came up for it with themselves to show how innovative they are, and they didn't talk to each other because everyone wanted to be the best practice example. And this is also a point. A lot of teams or a lot of departments in the corporations want to do something with innovation or something about innovation. And that's why I mentioned before, you need a strategy over the whole organization to lead this in a kind of direction, because otherwise you will have one department going this way, the other one doing something like that, and the other one doing something here. But this is often the case. So some departments doing this, some department is doing another thing, and what it's then also done to push even this development, they are shown as best practices. So the organization says, okay, this department, look here, they are so innovative, and in this one hand, you're saying, okay, they're innovative, and the rest of you is not. So what happens? The other ones also want to be innovative, and they're starting also the same thing, coming up with something they want to create, and a new solution. And that often leads to the situation that you have pretty similar solutions in different departments. And the other thing is, you have to be disciplined, and you have to be brave to come up with really new ideas or new solutions, because the top management usually measures with the core business KPIs, and so you always lose against the guys who are keeping the core business running, because they will always have the better KPIs. And so if you're a career-oriented person, it would be stupid doing something in innovation, because there's no career path, it doesn't match your KPIs, and there's really no benefit. You will just we will just get maybe a bad feedback from your boss or from the top management.
And that's interesting, because it's also a pain that I feel here in Brazil, is this thing of the KPIs, that I think you got on spot. You cannot measure innovative strategies or solutions with the same mindset of those of the current business. I just read an article, and I was following up with that. Is the disruption that is happening with Intel right now, because Apple changed their supplier for the chips and the Mac computers. They're actually ending their partnership with Intel, and they're building their own based on our ARM chips topology, which is the same thing they've been doing to the iPhones. And it's interesting that there's an interview with Intel CEO, and he said, we looked at the smartphone back then. Apple came to us to build their chips, and thought, this is not a very big market. It's not a very our idea. We need to work on power consumption, and we're kind of like not in this core business. But actually, the smartphone is the PC on our pockets. It is their core business. Is building processors for chips. But they were looking at the same KPIs that they use in this. It's a perfect point, man. I loved it that you mentioned this point. How difficult it is for companies to do that. And have you managed in some of your customers to bring? I don't know. You mentioned about the assessment, which is it looks really cool. And have you managed to sell or to show some different kinds of KPIs that you could use, and how the project of the process of innovation is to be managed differently? How have you been dealing with that?
Yeah. What we are usually doing is we're not having one small bet with a big budget on one idea. So we are trying to build an ecosystem where we will have initially a lot of ideas, and we will spend a really small amount of money for each idea, so that they can develop and improve the idea. And then we will have, let's call it stage gates. It's not really stage gates, but we will have a review of the existing ideas, and the ideas with the highest potential. Potential means we have done user tests, and we have positive feedback, and on later stages will we have a problem solution fit, and then some ideas will be rejected and the others will get a bit more budget, and then they will come up with a business model, and we'll see if their business model could be successful. And then we're doing experiments about the business model, if all the aspects we came up with in our ideation phase, if those are really true in the market, and if the customers really behave like we expected before. And so you're going step by step even further, and you're spending more and more for the ideas with the best potential. And if you're good, maybe in the end there is one or two really good ideas that could be your new core business.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's a very good path for large corporations, right? And let me ask you something. You mentioned to me when we were discussing before the talk about a concept called lean change. Can you explain us a little bit on that?
Yeah, this is also one answer to your question before, where you ask. I think it was a bit how we can approach this hierarchical structures. Mm-hmm. And yeah, lean change is actually it's a Deloitte method, but it's also free available, so no IP claiming or something like that. But actually it's a change method that's not especially designed for innovation. On first hand, it was designed to do agile transformation, but we are using it for every kind of change project. So we use it for IT outsourcing, for, of course, agile transformation, but we are also using it in our innovation projects. And what this basically does is approach with really small changes. So instead of the usual consulting approach, where you as a corporation hire expensive consultants, then you lock yourself in a meeting room, and then you're trying to develop a target picture or a target state. And then after 1 week or so, you come out with a big concept paper, and on day X, it is implemented, and in 1 week or in 1 day, everything has to change. And then you need change managers and change consultants to consult your organization over years why this approach you developed in a locked room is really better, or is way better than everything you've done the years before. And what we're doing differently is we're doing it together with the people who are impacted by the change. So it's not always the top management, it's also the employees that will be impacted by the changes. So we're doing it together with them. This is one point. The other point is we're doing really small changes. We call those minimum viable changes. So one minimum viable change will be a change that will have minimal change in the whole organization, but will have at least a little impact. So then we're doing it, and what is also important afterwards, we're measuring if it was successful. And if it wasn't successful, because it was based on assumptions we created together with the client employees and the client management, but we can't talk to the whole organization, but we talked to a lot of people before. And if we see, okay, there was not the expected impact based on our assumptions, then the minimum viable change will be rejected. And so step by step, you're doing a really big transformation over time. And this is also a first step to the transition of always changing, because you mentioned before through digitalization, we have at the moment we have exponential development of technologies, and that's why the corporations can't keep going as they did before. So one change project or change program every 3 years won't work. You need to change constantly. And this can happen with those minimum viable changes. You look at the urgencies you have in your organization, you're coming up with ideas how to solve them, you talk to a lot of people in your organization if this could work, and then you're trying things out, like you would do in innovation projects with methods like design thinking or all the things. It's quite similar approach. And this really works really good for all those things, as I mentioned, IT outsourcing, agile transformation, innovation projects. But one thing that is really important and that you need to have for this method, you need to have senior buy-in. Because if you don't have it, then it won't work. Yes. So you have to explain the senior management why you're doing a different approach and what the benefits would be. And you also need to explain them that it wouldn't be the top-down approach. So they won't be the people who say how it would be done in the end. Of course, they will have a strong voice in it, but they're not the last person who says we're going right or we're going left, because that's the rest of the organization who have this voice.
Wow.
So if you have this commitment, then it's a really, really strong method that could also help your whole organization in the transition to this constant change.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love the term minimum viable change, because usually when we think change management projects, it's this huge stuff. Yeah. Usually ran by the HR department or the CEO, and it's really top down stuff, yeah. And that actually doesn't work, My I don't know how you say in English, but the book that is on beside my bed, that I sleep on the side of it around innovation is The Fifth Discipline from Peter Senge, which is actually like a 90s book, and he says a lot about that. He talks a lot about sharing a vision and joining and having the group get together, the teams together. And he even has a scale of how people are involved in a change management process, according to the way you do. If you just tell them, they have no involvement, and usually change management projects is like an email newsletter that the HR department sends and says, hey, we're actually doing this right now, you know, and everybody's like, what the hell? And actually the highest level on involvement, according to his research, is the co-creation, you know. And we know that because we work with innovation. We started working together with design, which is a very collaborative and co-creative process, you know. And it's really interesting that he mentions that, you know. And then the process, as you told me, is very collaborative and very co-creative, you know. That's really cool, really cool. I love the term.
Yeah, and what we see in such projects is at the beginning you might have the people against you who will be impacted by the changes that needs to be done, but the approach is bottom up, and so you're trying to get them into your team and to make them part of the change, and so they're doing the change for themselves, you could say, and so they can't be against it because they need to come up with ideas how to improve their own situation. They can't just say, the top management sucks and they don't know how to do it. Yeah, we don't need the top management here. Now it's your task. And this is really interesting because in one project we created with the whole organization. It was a smaller company with the whole organization and the top management together. So every employee, including the top management, we created the innovation vision for the next years. And a lot of people, a lot of employees who have never done anything with innovation, who are just workers, blue collar workers, they said, oh gosh, this is so hard coming up with a strategy. I thought the top management is just sitting around and drinking coffee and talking about things, and they are just creating slides. But this is so difficult, and so they also acquired a better understanding of how hard the job of a top management actually is.
Yeah, exactly. That's cool, and that brings us back to the empathy, you know, that we share, we spread so much around design thinking, you know, and we try to evangelize so much, you know. It's great that both end of the companies have this empathetic mindset around the work of the other, you know, and this is really powerful stuff for innovation. Martin, I know you've mentioned quite a few times here design thinking and design sprints. We met working with a design thinking project, and I remember you were doing like a master's or a doctorate degree on that or something like that. And how is, you know, design was born in Germany, you know, and I remember when I was there before we met in the workshop, I was at Bauhaus, you know, visiting the school and sleeping over there, you know, and how is design, like design for innovation, using the mindset or the thinking of the designer spread around Germany, you know, because one thing is to have those beautiful products that Germany always produce, you know, those amazing I don't know things for the home, you know, and nice technologies, you know. There's a lot of companies in Germany that produce beautiful stuff. But how is the design approach for innovation working in Germany? Is it like going well, or it's kind of like, you know, Bauhaus is Bauhaus, design thinking is another stuff, you know?
Yeah, actually, if I tell my students that design thinking and all the stuff was developed in Germany, everybody's like, what? And because usually the answer you get from people is, yeah, it was something like Stanford and IDEO and those things came up with it. But actually, it was developed in Weimar years ago, before IDEO or the Stanford University did something with it. And it's interesting to see the path. So I think it was kind of going from Germany going to the US somehow, and then it was done by IDEO and became really popular, and then it was promoted by Stanford University. But I think in around about 2005, something like that, it came back again to Germany because the Hasso-Plattner Institute from SAP they had a cooperation with the Stanford University, and they had here in Germany the first university course about design thinking, like it's in Stanford. And with that, the method also became here more popular than it was before. And I think up from then, now in the big corporations, everybody knows what design thinking is. But what the people usually say, yeah, it's a kind of innovation method, or some will say, yeah, it's a workshop. We did it. It was 2 days. It sucked. we're not doing design thinking anymore. But as the name suggests, it's not a method and it's not a workshop. It's a way of thinking and it's a way of doing things. And you can apply design thinking to your whole organization. And this lean change method is also kind of in the design thinking mindset, yeah. Because what actually it says, design thinking is just the way how designers are doing things. and yeah, but what I see, a lot of companies just see it as a method you can use for some days, or if they're more mature, then maybe several months. But yeah, mostly it's a workshop method for the people. And if they say design thinking, then it's like 2 or 3 days workshopping, and at the end there's nothing coming out of it. So they have maybe some cool ideas, maybe they managed to do some user testing and came up with some first low fidelity prototypes, but afterwards, when the workshop is over, nothing happens with it.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? How design, and I was visiting Bauhaus in the south.
Yeah, I can remember you told me, yeah, I was at Bauhaus. Oh my gosh, Weimar. And I was like, yeah. Why is it so crazy for you being in Weimar? Because it's a really small town somewhere in the middle of Germany.
There's like nothing.
Everybody here knows it. And you were like, oh my god.
Yeah, and it's interesting, because we see, the mindset was already there, 100 years ago. Bauhaus just completed 100 years, and there was like a huge event in Germany, in several cities, and everything, and you see the same mindset. That's really cool. It's crazy. And actually, when we think about innovation, at least me that come from the design school, we're like architects of innovation. Because architects, when they're building something, they're like looking for the people that need that building or that home, etc. They're exploring their emotions and their needs, and they're empathizing with them. And then they come up with solutions with different materials, with different colors, different types of buildings, modernist architecture and contemporaneous or classical, etc., according to the needs of their customers, And then they build like a mock-up, the little building is the mock-up, is kind of like their delivery of the project, And design thinking is actually the same thing. And it was born in an architect school, and I always say to my customers and especially students that we're architects of innovation, especially in the digital realm. We need people that can think like an architect to build the buildings of the digital age, which are like the apps and the social media and this environment in the digital world that we're building, And that's really interesting. It's really, really powerful. If anyone is listening to us and have the chance to go to Germany, invite Martin to go to Bauhaus, so he can see firsthand that is not
actually,
only.
Never been there.
Oh, okay. That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, so please invite me if you're in Germany and you want to go to Weimar, to Bauhaus. Take me with you.
That's cool. And Martin, so we can wrap up our conversation. We both give lectures and talk to students around innovation and entrepreneurship. Are you suffering from the same infectious disease that I'm here in Brazil, that everything is going to be an app? Every project on innovation is an app. Oh, I thought about an app that is the Uber of something.
Yeah. So as a lecturer, also we also have some modules where the students really creating their own projects. So they are trying to find some ideas with design thinking and then coming up with business models for it. And at the end, they will come up with a business plan how to start their startup. And what we've seen in the past semesters were a lot of apps, yes, because I think for the just 6 months the students have, it's often easier to come up with an app solution, because the prototype, it's done in PowerPoint, doing a few slides, and then it's ready. It's easier than doing really physical products. But we also had some physical products, so something about gardening and things like that. This was also pretty interesting. And now I try to switch things a little bit up in this semester. We are also doing only online lecturing because of Corona, and so I had to adjust things a lot. But at the moment, it doesn't seem that every group creates an app. I think there's at least one who will do something else. But yeah, the tendency is really to do apps. But I think it's because of the short time period.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. It's not actually a problem, because it's so easy to have like a smartphone and then you have the solution inside and it's always in your pocket. Okay,
Yeah.
But innovation is not only that. Actually, the biggest innovations that we have around our lives are actually hard science. Like 4G, the impact that 4G had, the impact of GPS in our lives. And the apps can use those hard science and projects to actually build innovation. And to finish, like I'm really excited about our talk here, and it was really cool, man. What are the top 3 tips that you can give to Brazilian people around innovation and strategic projects and dealing with top management and stuff like that?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know that much about Brazil, but what I would suggest, and those were the things I already mentioned before. So one thing that is really important: come up with an ambition and a strategy, how to do innovation, and what is the purpose of innovation in your organization, so you can align all the departments, all the teams that want to do something cool. You can align them that they will help you as a company to create really viable solutions, because that's what innovation is about. You want to create as an organization future revenue, right? This is the whole purpose of innovation. And the other thing is really, try new things, be creative on one hand, but also be disciplined to as I said, after the workshop, what you're doing with the ideas. You need discipline to really implement them, to create a business model for it, or maybe create first prototypes, proof of concepts, and all the things. You need a lot of discipline to keep on track and to keep on going. And the other thing, top down won't work for innovation. You need to collaborate. Bottom-up approaches already work, because when you're a top manager, what you're basically saying when you're doing things top down, you're basically saying you're way smarter than the 20 people that are working for you together. And I don't know, I haven't met such a top manager yet who is really smarter than 20 people working for him. And so you should really be open for the people working for you, because usually they have really cool ideas, and you can use it for your own success. So I think those would be the most important point, and this also a good summary, I think, for our whole discussion.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, the point number 2 around creativity and discipline is really important here in Brazil, because we always say that we are very creative, but we are not very innovative, because we cannot, transform that creative idea into a business, into a product, market it. We're very bad at that. So that was the perfect point, and I think we can wrap up our conversation here. Thanks a lot for your time again. Thanks a lot for the time of the audience listening to us. And remember that this audio will be available in our podcast. And here in the chat, I just sent to you guys a link for a Google Forms. That is actually an invitation for us to run together an EXO assessment. And Martin, I introduced Martin to a group of people that work around exponential organizations and exponential technologies. And we have an assessment there that you can really understand how does your company is around the use of top technologies and exponential technologies. What is the expectation of explosive growth that your company might have? And this Google form will help you out for us to schedule a moment together where I can guide you throughout the EXO assessment, and we can then look into to work together, maybe with Martin, to help your organization, grow exponentially. Thanks, Martin. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you for having me.